talking about people being treated like terrorists who are, peaceful protesters, and grandmothers and mothers who love their country, and then some of them weren't even at the Capitol building. But then there are real terrorists who are coming into our country and killing National Guardsmen and planning on doing car bombs in Dallas. That's just 2 off the dome, Afghan terrorists. They were part of kill squads in Afghanistan that were run by our own CIA, and then we decided they'd make great American citizens because of that. And they got welfare coming here, of course. Like they would be living on the streets if they didn't have this. And I know you've been talking about this. Like, how do we fix that problem of welfare to migrants who don't belong here, who are going to use it then to commit terrorism? United States.
Well, we admitted nearly 200,000. We've admitted hundreds of thousands of Somalis, and they don't come in through normal immigration. They come in through these special visas. They're considered to be refugees. And then it turns out refugees have been exempt from the rules on welfare. So if you're in here illegally, you're not supposed to get welfare. And even if you come in legally, you're prevented from getting welfare for a certain period of time. It's not supposed to be the beacon of welfare that brings you. It's supposed to be the beacon of freedom and work and capitalism that brings you. But letting so many come in, I opposed it at the time. This was led by McCain and others who say, oh, we owe it to these people. They were our translators. They speak English. It'll be dangerous for them. And I guess my analogy is, look, the British kept attacking us. In 1812, they came and burned our capital. That would be like our founding fathers. That'd be like Madison and Monroe, who are then leading the country, saying, oh, it's dangerous for us. The British are back. Can we go to France? No, stay and fight for your country. And so these people, if they were particularly Western oriented and pro-American, instead of coming to America, 200,000 people is a lot of people. That could be the brain drain of the country. It could be the patriot drain. Now, some of them turned out to be bad, but many of them were good people, but they still needed to stay in Afghanistan. They should have been the people to try to populate the next government. But with them all gone, Afghanistan quickly went to hell in a handbasket, and we couldn't vet them. Many of them had one name at best. We didn't know who they were. And you remember when they used to talk, they would call it what, green on green violence, where we'd have an Afghan person who was embedded with us all of a sudden turn and start shooting our people. It's because you didn't know what to believe. They said, oh, we're sympathetic. We want to work with your military. Well, sometimes they were doing it just because it was a paycheck. And then if you gave them a paycheck, if the Taliban gave a paycheck, they'd work for the Taliban. And some of them were just simply plants. But we never should have admitted so many. Same way with the Somalis. I'm not against Somalis as a people, but let's admit them one at a time based on work and based on how many people were willing to admit that year. But let's not say we're going to take 1 million immigrants a year, which is about what we do. But then on top of that, we'll take another 100,000 Somalis or another 200,000 Afghans on top of our limits. No, let's decide what the limit is. And then let's base it on work and skills, and bring in, the great talent. That's what we've done. We are a great melting pot. And I'm not against legal and lawful immigration, but I am against sort of this mass introduction of people who never assimilate and end up bringing some people to the country actually aren't here for the right reasons and then end up committing violence.
Yeah, I like to use the 51st state rule, which is if the country wouldn't make a good 51st state, then why are you importing people from that country? If you were to bring Somalia over and just attach it to Florida or the Carolinas, would people want to visit? And the answer to that has got to be no, because the inbreeding coefficient is through the roof. So is the child brides. So is the terroristic violence, clan warfare, female genital mutilation, and an entire economy run on piracy and fraud. And so, is that compatible with Western civilization? The answer is, of course, no. Right, Senator?
Well, and it also gets to a fundamental point of how you design your immigration system. So while I am for lawful immigration, I'm not for zero immigration. I think we should be selective in who the immigration is. So I've often been long been a fan of the employment-based visas. They're called EB visas, EBV. So they're 1 through 5. They include sometimes people who will bring $1 million and create jobs. Some of them are doctors, some are engineers, some are nurses, and these are people we accept. But I would also say even people who don't have education that are hard workers, if you want to come and be a hard worker. But that's why we should have an absolute sort of wall around our welfare system. We give too much welfare to our own people, but we don't need to be giving any welfare to people who come to the country. In fact, I'm a big believer in the sponsorship idea. If you come to this country, you should have a sponsor, and your sponsor takes care of you. Instead of putting them on Medicaid, no, your sponsor should pay for your health care. And that should be it. And that should be a limit. If you can't find a sponsor, then guess what? We may not need another person here. And I think there are ways we could make immigration much more self-sufficient and much more likely to bring in the best people. But if you're coming in and you're going to get put on Medicaid and you want food stamps, you need to stay where you are. You're not an asset. You're now a drain to our country. So I think we need to reassess all these laws. My staff is looking at this currently, and we're looking to see if there's any more of these laws that we can restrict so there isn't any beacon of welfare to come to our country.
Yeah, and if you were to get rid of that, I wonder how many people would re-migrate back to their own countries if you were to stop the goodies
Possibly.
from flowing. What about Hart-Celler? I know that the president posted about this on Truth Social. A lot of people talking about how Hart-Celler Act of 1965, and this would be, of course, when you were, like even the baby boomers were small children in 1965. So this is 2 whole generations ago, enacted something that, of course, got rid of sort of the civilizational limits on immigration, and you were able to see third world immigration explode. This is also, of course, where you get the chain migration, where you can just lie and say everyone's your family in Somalia, and so bring all of Somalia over. And that is how you get 200,000 Somalis here, is through chain migration brought about by the Hart-Celler Act. What do you think about this act, Senator? Is this a flawed act? Should it be revised?
If we could ever get together a consensus on immigration reform, yeah, what we should do is base immigration on merit and jobs, not on family connections. Because the family connections, you're right, you sometimes can get a handful of families come. I mean, I don't know how many original Somalis came to Minnesota, but it may have been, 5,000 or 3,000, and now it's 600,000. So some of it's proliferation of those families, but it's also bringing in their extended family clans as well. And undoubtedly, there are good people in the communities. I don't want to paint them with all the same brush, but I'm just against these special visas. I would have one visa, one system, base it on merit, base it on jobs. And, but we did this. We've been in so many wars for so long. And so the McCain wing of the party, they were the big lovers. It was so patriotic. So they brought in Afghanis, but they also brought in Iraqis. Well, I think we had brought in 80,000 Iraqis as well. And like I say, many of them are our allies, but they needed to stay in their country and be the founding fathers of their country, even if they were good people. They needed to be there fighting for their country, not over in ours. And there is a wide difference between their culture and ours that it'd be great if they wanted to come be part of ours, but I don't necessarily want to become part of Iraq. Right. I'm all for people who come over here and want to be part of our country. But if you get too many people all at once, I think they bring their country and they want us to be part of their country.